Welcome in. I'm so excited to be with you on this journey through consciousness. I'm Amanda Zane, and it's been 10 years since the Dharana Method, a simple meditation and lifestyle method, came into being. It was put through me at a wild time in my life. I'd just been in a car accident 5 months after giving birth. I had been put on these medications that made me feel numb and like a zombie. And I hated it. So I went off the medications, and that made me completely depressed. I was crying every day. I didn't want to get out of bed. I had this new baby. I had this chronic pain that was exacerbated by the car accident. And that was the first time that I really wanted to leave this earth. I remember calling my husband at the time and saying, I am such a burden to you guys. I'm just going to go off into the forest and I'm going to head there now. And he's like, wait, go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor, and my body knew to ask for Prozac. So I asked the doctor for Prozac to just get me stable, and the doctor agreed. And it was a very low dose, like 5 milligrams. I took that for a week and tapered off easily, no problem. But while I was taking that, I was looking up natural forms of pain relief and mood balancing and just overall natural holistic well-being practices and herbs and everything. And I was able to find Deepak Chopra's 21-day meditation challenge. And he was doing it with Oprah. I don't know if you remember that era where they were releasing those all the time, but I joined and I did every day their meditation that was centered around a central theme. And they had this nice music. Well, Deepak walked us into the meditation, and then the music was soothing. So it was kind of like meditation with training wheels. And I was completely blown away by how it changed my life. After that 21 days of meditation, I had a complete lifestyle shift. I was buying healthy foods. I was being guided to these holistic supplements and herbs to manage my pain. And this was all helping the hormones from postpartum. And I was losing weight. I think in 2 months, I lost 50 pounds. And I have this picture of me in a swimsuit with my, I think he was 7 or 8 months old, baby on my hip. And I've never looked more ripped. People are like, what are you doing? You're working out? You just had a baby. And I was like, no, just meditating and eating right. So I'm sharing this with you to inspire you to get back into your meditation practice, or give you some excitement about just the bare bones benefits of a regular meditation practice, and some motivation, because it doesn't take very long. The main thing that meditation helps us do is give us space between our current reality and the reality that we want to be in, which is happiness, right? And meditation does that by creating new neural pathways. And it takes 21 days to create a new neural pathway. And that's what we know as a habit. We have all of these roads just ingrained in our brain of a trigger. Something triggers us to feel something that might make us uncomfortable. And then we go to a soothing mechanism, a coping mechanism, perhaps alcohol or sugar, or for me, it was like lashing out or numbing out. And then we create a memory. And that memory starts that neural pathway of, oh, this coping mechanism made me feel relief. The memory of the after effects of that choice, that coping mechanism, it doesn't remember the hangover. It doesn't remember the fallout from the fight that I started from, that coping mechanism. It just remembers that for that moment, you felt relief when you had that emotion or that discomfort. And so we create these neural pathways in Vedic tradition and Buddhist tradition. Those are called samskaras. Those are the memories of desire. And those we can easily interrupt and create new pathways that bring us out of those samskaras and into the present moment and into a mode of nourishing ourselves. So 21 days. We have 84 days in this journey that we're on of the entire meditation certification and facilitator training. If you're just watching for the intro video, then hopefully you'll still pursue 21 days of meditation. 10 minutes a day does so much for your time management, for your overall mental well-being, for your sense of balance. It's unreal. I got away from meditation during the pandemic. My life fell apart. It was like, got canceled as a TV host in the middle of a divorce during the pandemic, 2 weeks before Christmas. I moved into an RV out of necessity and went on a shamanic journey that lasted 3 years. But the meditation practice during that time of heavy chaos, of trauma, of all of that turmoil, that meditation practice went to the wayside. It wasn't a regular 10 minutes a day. If I had done that, maybe things would have been different. But I'm telling you this because I had the structure of meditation prior to that. I had the neural pathways. I had the lifestyle practices. I had that structure already built. So then when I went through all of that and I wasn't drawn to meditate every day, I still knew that was available to me. And I still used the principles of coming to the present moment with my breath. And with Dharana, the method that was channeled through me through after all my training, you can choose a variety of focuses. So you don't just have to do a sitting practice with a mantra meditation as your focus. You can have a sound bath as your meditation and just be blissed out with the vibrations. You can do a walking meditation where you're feeling each step your foot is taking. You can do meditative art like we're going to do in this course if you're taking the meditation certification. So though I wasn't doing the 10-minute a day sitting practice while I was going through all that, I was interweaving the Dharana principle of focus throughout all that. And that helped me keep one foot in reality while my world expanded, because it didn't just so happen that my identity was thrown out the window. I'm no longer this TV host with a perfect little family and a picket fence and my horse down the street. I am a single parent living in an RV. I don't have a job. It was wild. It was like a blank slate. At the same time, dealing with higher perceptions finally opening up. It's like, what is the timing with all this? While all that was happening in 2020, I had been meditating and doing the lifestyle practices, clearing out my energy channels for about 3 solid years. Very dedicated practice. During those 3 years, I maybe had a shamanic dream, couple little visions here and there, but nothing that was like, oh, I have psychic gifts. But when that turmoil happened, I remember I was lighting a fire in my backyard. I was just about to sell my house, and my best friend had helped me move all the furniture out. And it was it was a desperate time. I was feeling really low. I had gone to my local magic store, my little witchy store, and was drawn to purchase two Egyptian statues, one of Anubis and one of Bastet. Anubis is the protector of the dead. And this Anubis statue is such a badass. He's like ripped, was the skull Ankh, the symbol of eternal life. And then Bastet, the cat goddess of creation and femininity. And so it was felt like a good balance. And I had them out there on my hearth. My house was from 1896. I had this gnarly, cool, witchy stone fireplace in the backyard. Loved to do, the full moon rituals and all that out there. And I remember at the witch store, there was a sign in front of those statues when I was purchasing them that said, please do not place anything in front of the statues. An offering will activate them. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Whatever, I don't really play into that. I don't know anything about it. Like I love doing little rituals, but the concept of an actual appearance from a higher being or an interaction with a higher being, that was pretty foreign to me. So that night when I was feeling just so sad, it was a full moon. I was unsure how I was going to pay for this next chapter. I was heartbroken. I was just a mess. And I brought those two statues out, placed them on the mantle out there. And I was like, I'm going to give them an offering. We'll see what happens. So I lit a fire and I brought out an offering. And I just started staring into the fire. And then it was like a lightning bolt hit my crown chakra. It was like I came all online and I started getting these like a booming voice, but it wasn't like a voice, it was like an energy. And I was like, I want to understand what this is. So I grabbed my pen and paper. I'm always journaling, and out comes this incredible multi-page prophecy about 5D. I had no freaking clue what 5D was. And I didn't actually have the word 5D in there at all. But as my journey transpired, I kept looking back to that journal entry. And it was becoming multidimensional. It was the reality that I was about to integrate several years later. And in that channeling, that was legit channeling. That was opening of my gift of channeling. That began my guardianship from Anubis and Bastet. And they were assisting me over the next few years in balancing my masculine and feminine. In that channel, it talked about the spiders not being afraid to say hello, that the trees were alive. They were called standing people. The mountains were alive, that there is a reality beyond. It said, there is a reality much like this one beyond the veil or something. I'll have to read it. I have it in my journal. Where everything is almost the same, just slightly different, more alive. So it was interesting, but the point of all that is there is a path to opening up these higher states of consciousness that even if it doesn't happen with your regular meditation, maybe you're not seeing colors or accessing these realms, which we're about to talk about, these other states of these higher states of consciousness right away, you are building that structure. You are opening up your energy channels. You are quieting your limbic system. In the book, You Are Psychic, by MIT trained scientist, brain scientist Pete Sanders Jr. He's also the vortex expert in Sedona. He says we're all psychic and we're in this default mode of basically the reptilian brain, the stress response, and the limbic system is so active in our everyday reality for the average person that it never quiets down enough to allow us to have the third eye perception, which does require some attention. Like if you are not actively working on calming your nervous system and balancing your mental and emotional state, it's going to be not impossible, but less likely that you're going to access those higher states of consciousness. That's why the Dharana method is such a beautiful foundation, because it trains your brain to focus. And that, like, I am healing ADHD and I'm neurodivergent AF. But my ability to focus on the positive or find the solution or orient myself towards the sun or focus on that dark feeling, knowing that I'm going to focus on joy tomorrow so I don't stay there. That focus that is trained with the daily meditation or with the interweaving of focus with your walking meditation, your mindfulness with doing the dishes, that carries into your everyday life, even when things fall apart. So since that journey kind of wrapped up and I've been back in society, things have not been easy all the time. In fact, I've been in some of the most intense situations so far. I would say boss level situations, like times where, there's less than no money, times where people are coming after me that I really don't have a solution for. And just like it's all still happening, but my state of being is completely higher dimensional. And that surprised me. That surprised me. And I'm really grateful that this training has ingrained itself in me, because now I can be the influence of love and peace and harmony in these situations. And don't get me wrong, I will have my moment of, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this one. I don't know the solution to this. And I will go feel that. I'm getting better at self-advocating to remove myself and just have a few hours or even a day where I just leave my phone and just stare at a wall and feel and cry and process, so that I can get back to my vision. What do I want to happen? Because I have noticed that this pathway that I've experienced, it took me from focusing the mind and getting into feeling these more positive feelings, cultivating responsiveness instead of reactivity, feeling more equanimity and love towards myself and others, into the balancing of the masculine and feminine. That's the main deal that's the energy of right now. So when Dharana first came through me, the energy was mindfulness and meditation, that we all deserve to stress less, to, come back to the present moment. The consciousness has shifted. The pandemic put everyone through massive upheaval and trauma and put us into our traumas. So we started feeling more with the heart. And some of us, including myself, decided to numb that for a time. And then at some point, it's like, I don't want to be stuck here forever. How do I deal with this? And then I started exploring the medicine path, and that gave me a way to feel and experience these traumas and see different perspectives while with some level of anesthesia or euphoria. So medicated trauma healing, like for people like with PTSD, like veterans, people who have been through hardcore trauma, or people who just would not look at certain things otherwise. The medicine path is amazing. And you can have, I think the owner of the ketamine clinic where I was going for a while said it best. He said, you can have the effects of 30 years of regular meditation with a few ketamine sessions, in how much you can dive into your inner being, kind of clear it out, see it from an expanded perspective. Some people will never see that greater perspective of themselves or feel comfortable in their body enough to start looking at, hey, maybe I do have some patterns that aren't serving me, or hey, I never thought of it this way, that, you know, this person is not my soulmate. They're not serving me in this way, you know. So the medicine space is incredible for giving us glimpses into who we really are and these different patterns while in kind of a medicated state. You don't have to do that, though, to move trauma. As you know, in this particular course, if you're doing the certification, my intention was to show, or give tools rather, that have helped me move trauma unmedicated. And not just trauma, but the daily maintenance of moving these energies, really feeling and being with these energies that come through our energy body, and put them, you know, in a better direction instead of just letting them go in here. Because as we'll learn on this journey, we are energy bodies first and foremost. And we go from the perspective of the mind, which is, I feel this way because this happened and this happened, and we make sense of it. Or we're in our mind pulling up these past traumas, these samskaras, and creating new karma with our coping mechanisms, and contributing to hurting and creating more pain for us in the future. Even we come back to ourselves. Oh, hold on, I'm coming back to that the proper way. We go from the mental stories of everything and putting ourselves in that experience to pulling our power back when we start to notice the mind blaming someone or trying to figure something out, and we feel ourselves just diving deeper into that hole. We say, I call all my power back from all time, space, and dimensions. And it's back. It doesn't mean that the emotions won't come, they still will come, but you are now dealing with this, your energy system, and moving the energies within you versus spreading yourself way thin and putting attention on these things outside of yourself. We are empowered beings. We are self-sustained, self-sufficient energy bodies. And when we understand that, call our power back, then the question simply becomes, what do I do with this energy? Am I going to rest for a little while, give myself some time to feel this? Am I going to do a meditative mandala art? Am I going to journal? Am I going to go just walk in nature? Then it's not even a thing, that thing out there, because our new paradigm, as we come into the heart, When we balance the masculine and feminine energies within us, as I learned from Bastet and Anubis, when we balance those energies, that activates the heart power. And how do we create our reality? There are several schools of thought, and I've studied with a world-renowned, I guess you'd call him a guru on this, who says the universe is mental. Yes, I see that. He was creating thought forms and vibrational signs and all that stuff. But he wanted to work with me because he could feel that heart power had activated. And he didn't know much about that. He wanted to write that curriculum with me. And I was like, I don't know if this is the best space for that. So I went to explore more of that on my own and realized that the feminine has been completely pushed out, oppressed from our entire spirituality curriculum. I like the feminine is everything that is not, or everything that is in our reality, every thought, every emotion, every energy, every physical thing, every vibration. It's the Shakti. Shiva is the awareness. But Shiva would not even have self-awareness if it weren't for Shakti appearing and giving him a mirror to start reflecting. So in the book Shakti Rising, and you will have the excerpt, it goes into how women were the first yogis and meditators because they were trying to figure out their body cycles. Of course, they're going to want to try to figure out how to control birth if they're the ones stuck with, the risk of giving birth and having to be pregnant all the time and menstrual cycles, trying to deal with that. It was the women who taught the men meditation and yoga. In fact, if you look at tantric texts, it says that the yoginis were the ones with the siddhis, the superpowers, the yogic superpowers. And we'll go into the superpowers later on. So if you look at how that has never been talked about, we know that the Shakti deserves to come back in when we're having this conversation about manifesting and creating our reality. What is reality? It's the Shakti energy. And how do you influence and sense the Shakti? It's you feel through your senses, and the love is the most transformative energy that there is. And where is the love seated? It's in your heart. So when we balance masculine and feminine, it activates the heart power. And then you use your mind to focus that heart power and to envision. So the mind comes back in with the Dharana method of cultivating focused awareness. So going back to our meditation practice is beautiful. At the same time, we are going to be in the space of the heart. And this is where we're going. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, this is where we're going in this course. A broad overview. This is bringing all of our power back. I call it the 4 places of power, because doing these 4 things tend to create a whole sustainable system. First, stop hurting others. When you start to meditate, you start to notice where you're being reactive, where you maybe are not making good choices for the environment. It could mean a million different things. Stop hurting others. In this phase, you might still be hurting yourself. To stop hurting others, you might be self-medicating. I know that it's really helpful for people in pain to have that relief so that they stop acting out on everybody else. So stop hurting others. You still may be hurting yourself. Then you go into stop hurting yourself. This looks like, okay, maybe what I'm doing to self-medicate or maybe I'm giving too much of myself away. How can I balance that out? You start to add in things that you actually enjoy. And that brings us to start nourishing yourself. You stop going from just things that bring you pleasure to actual nourishment for yourself. Music, good food, time to yourself. And when you fill your cup that way, not only does it make the tendency to hurt yourself with maybe too much of a substance or too much busyness or, giving too much away, it actually allows you to spill over into nourishing others. And this is not always linear. I feel like this is more of a transformation cycle. So perhaps it's like you can imagine that sacred spiral going up, and maybe you find yourself, you've been nourishing others because your cup was so full, but then you've been doing it too much. So you're back to, oh, I really get to stop hurting myself. And how does that look in my life right now? So I feel like this is a pretty decent roadmap of not only how you can gauge where you're at and what you need, and we'll go into what helps in each of these categories, but also with your clients. So people might come to you in various stages of this, and them knowing that they're not just dealing with a them problem, that this is a pretty human problem, to the point where there's a map like this, like stop hurting others. Oh, other people hurt others, and then they get into this next path. Okay, there's hope for me, right? Kind of like a sustainable recovery model. And when we apply these practices like meditation, Ayurveda, the meditative art, the energy practices, the shamanic journeying, then we have so many things that are so appealing that these two categories, stop hurting others and stop hurting yourself, those aren't really that appealing anymore. Because you have all of these nurturing things. Maybe you've picked up an instrument, or maybe you started writing your book, or maybe you learned that you love hiking or horsemanship or something like that, or fashion. And then you start nourishing others, sharing your art with the community, or cooking meals for your family, and then you realize that that feels good. It's just kind of cool to know that there is a way to feel better, and it will happen pretty naturally as you go full in to the place that you're at, so you can be really honest with yourself of where you're at. We will go into the higher states of consciousness. I just wanted to show you, this is a pretty good picture that, for me, in what I've seen, represents us as an energy body in different planes of existence. Because once we activate all 7 chakras, most of humanity is in the lower 3, very earthbound, desire based, need for belonging, that sort of thing. Once we work our way up here, then we get into these other dimensions, like the heart is you access a different dimension when you open the heart than any other, than the lower 3. So you start to access more and more of yourself and the absolute reality when you activate your chakras. Okay. So I just want to share my screen here so that we see this. Okay. This is us. I feel, with what I've experienced, that we are these energy bodies in multiple planes of existence. And when my third eye opened up and I started accessing what's available to all of us, but let's call them gifts, the planes of existence, I didn't see them in the waking world. I was shown them, taken to these realms by my guides and these helping energies. For example, I found myself in meditation in a place called the Sands of Time. And it's so funny because I will run into things on the internet when I'm researching where other people are talking about the Sands of Time. And it's just cool that other people are accessing this place. And that place became a very special place. It was just like Egypt, where I was introduced and given gifts, introduced to these gods and goddesses and giving gifts. It was told to me that it's a place where shamans go to give or get a prayer from the wind. It's where, when I was working with learning funerary rites from the Egyptian uh, priests and priestesses, working with the roadkill, which that's a whole different story, and learning the funerary rites from them, that's where when I would put these beautiful departed souls into their cornmeal tomb for 40 days, their soul was in the sands of time. It was like this healing place. And I learned a lot. I received a lot of really cool gifts, like this tattoo I have on my arm that has the scarab and Anubis and the sun and the flower of life. Like that scarab is a particular thing called a heart scarab. And that was given to me by the goddess Hathor from Isis. So Isis told Hathor gave me this heart scarab in the sands of time, just appeared. I had no idea who any of these people were, but when they told me their names and the things, I looked them up, and then I was able to learn more about my spiritual heritage, some of my spiritual gifts. So very cool that I could access that place through the third eye. Now, it has been only recently where I have seen a split with my eyes. I've seen energy splits where, like, I'm looking at the material world and I will see like a different realm with, or a different dimension, a different dimension to what I'm looking at with my naked eye. So that is cool. That I had asked and intended that, I'm sure, like a year and a half ago. And it's just started happening. Some people have that naturally. Some people can see auras. Some people can, like my son, he can see he calls it like the static or the popcorn in the air. He can see that. Um, and these develop over time. You become aware of your gifts over time. So if there's nothing happening that you're aware of, you can default to, I am psychic, I am a channeler, I am claircognizant. So you can look into like the clairs, clairsentience, clairaudience. You can kind of look at what gifts are available, what people are reporting. Like you can start with the clairs or start with I am psychic and just intend that. And you will notice with regular meditation, those may present themselves more in your awareness. So we all have everything. We are infinite beings, and we're waking up to the fact that we are at least 12 dimensional, if not more. Ultimately, we are everything, and everything is interconnected. But our wave in the ocean of energy, we could start with our energy body. And a good way to orient yourself to this new reality of I am an energy body that's beyond space and time, in existing in multiple dimensions. And this reality, there's no past or future, it's all now. If I am having a vision of the future, it's because I'm accessing something in the unified field that's already there, or if I'm having this memory, it's because it's part of my jiva, my personal soul with all its karma and memories. And it's just, we stop seeing time as this timeline, and we start experiencing time as the ever present now, where anything that's in the past or future is just a mental construct or an old trapped emotion that's coming up to be moved or integrated. So I like to think of time and like the past and the future as like, I like to look at history as a sphere around me of different emotions that we've experienced as a human soul, as a soul having a human experience. And that may not make sense. But if you think about the feeling, the energy of the Dark Ages, and just all the things we know about that, like that gives a certain energy. Like that's an energy that is present for us to access if we focus on that. The energy of like the 60s, when we think about what was going on there, like the revolution and the free love, like that's its own frequency, right? So I started experiencing history as this, and history repeats itself because I feel I've experienced that it's all here right now. And when we're in one period, we may get tired of that and go for what's familiar around us and start to recreate a reality based on the feeling of the 60s. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that whole thing happened when I was at a survival school and I was taking a break from my tribe. They started calling me Sasquatch because I just wanted to be alone, and I'd appear sometimes to do the tribe stuff. But anyway, I was alone with the trees because when I was stripped down to just my bare humanness and no distractions and nothing to satiate the hunger, like I just became hyper aware of everything in my present moment. And I developed a relationship with the trees. And I would just go and sit with the trees, and I started to understand them better. They have families, they communicate, they can talk to trees around the entire world, that sort of thing. Kind of like mycelium, they're just an interconnected web. One time when I was sitting in the trees, just having my moment with them, feeling their support, I saw the ancestors all around me, picking berries, walking around. Like it was in my third eye, but it was like there, like all around me in the same setting and everything. And that was new to me because up until that point, I had just been going to those realms in my meditations and using my third eye and all that. But that showed me that everything is happening now. We just have the level of awareness that we have. So if we're only aware that our physical reality here right now is three-dimensional, how will we know that it's possible that time is not how we think it is? When we open up to the possibility that what we see is not necessarily the absolute reality, then we get shown things little by little until we start to understand more and more. Because as human souls, or spiritual beings in a human body, I should say, not everyone, like that soul concept is kind of loaded, but a spiritual being in a human body, we are expansive by nature. So it is natural that we are evolving to want to see more and to explore more. And so what I intend is that I can share some of the pathways and things that I've seen and the development of multidimensionality, that state of being, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, so that when it happens to you, you will know that this is something that other people have experienced, and this is kind of where a lot of us are going. So multidimensional living is the awareness that your immediate reality is not finite, that things that are happening outside of your immediate reality are completely changeable. So when the war within you is won, it's won out there. And I have examples to prove that. I have this small group of like community leaders, very spiritual people, mix of nationalities and cultures. And two of us, one of Native heritage, and I have Native heritage way back there, but I was sharing things about the residential boarding schools. He was sharing things about the residential boarding schools. And then not long after that, Biden came out with his apology. I mean, it was so weird that the years had gone by of no action or acknowledgement. And then when you have just a little bit of intention and awareness with creators of their own reality and intending things, the outside reality starts changing. And I've seen this multiple times. Like, I was about to release something on the 1910 Flexner report, the report that was funded by the Carnegies and had influence from the Rockefellers, that influenced the American Medical Association to start taking away licenses from the naturopaths, the osteopaths, the electromagnetic frequency practitioners, really putting us into this medical dark age of disease treatment only model. I was about to release something on that very recently. And then I saw two people, two big figures like Callie Means and a TikToker who, it's funny how much weight these TikTokers have. It's awesome. Citizen journalism. But they released something on like the Flexner report, like maybe a couple days after that. So I'm seeing it faster and faster that the work that I'm doing within and the awareness I'm bringing to my own reality is having an effect. And that's what I firmly believe. It's wild. The creator of our own reality, I had seriously doubted that for quite a while because I felt as though I had hit a place a long time ago where I should be manifesting. I'm doing all the things. I'm, feeling the joy of having the $1 million, or I'm really like being my own true love, like the law of attraction should not be. But I still had karma to clear. And I feel like there was a moment not too long ago where it was like, your karma has cleared. As long as you don't create any new karma, so make those good choices, you are a creator of your reality. And so I am not in an ideal position where I can control the vibes around me. Like, I'm staying with family, and there's a lot of other energies that I wouldn't necessarily say is the most ideal for me, having the simplicity to focus on what I'm creating and always stay in the vibration of what I'm creating, and move as slow as I want to be intentional. But it's great practice because when we are transitioning from not feeling like we're creators of our reality to creating our own reality. When we're in that transition, it's like this 4D, this four-dimensional space of, we know things aren't just 3D. So we've peeled back the reality a little bit. We get into this space that can feel like the void. It can feel like there's a lot of, we're really in the heart space at that point, because we are anchoring ourselves in the present moment, allowing what is there to be. Like we've gotten out of the illusion of like living in the past or the future of the 3D world. We're now in the present moment, feeling our feelings. We're out of those cycles, or becoming more aware of the cycles that have kept us in the past or the future, or in fear or pain. So we're just like kind of here feeling things, and it can be kind of shitty. And what do we do in that space when we're like, okay, we know that on the other side of this is creator of my own reality, and but how do I tune myself to that when I'm dealing with all this crap? So that was like my big long sabbatical, where I learned from my Native American mentors how to like ground into the earth, how to do the morning prayers, how to put my right hand up to the sun in the morning when everything was falling apart and I felt like crap and I was broke and didn't know what was going to happen, and my old reality didn't make sense anymore, and I had all these new powers, psychic gifts, and those, they weren't honed yet, and I just could only focus on like right now. It was really difficult to do other things. So a medicine man taught me to put my right hand up to the sun in the morning and stand in all four directions. So I'd do that to the east. First thing when I'd wake up, I'd go outside and do that. I'd go to the south, the west, the north. And I had my sage. And at the end, when I was at the north, I'd put sage, I'd sage smudge rather, the bottoms of my feet to show the earth that I promised to walk in beauty, which is just a beautiful intention. It's just like this contained practice that just got ingrained in me. So when I was like really ungrounded, doing that every morning helped just, okay. And when I compare that to this picture, what we're doing is we're activating our energy field. We're inviting protection. I started adding in asking for protection from Archangel Michael, and asking for green healing light from Archangel Raphael. So I started kind of building this morning energy practice to contain myself. And then as I developed more tools for dealing with the emotions and the discomfort that arises when you notice that you're hurting yourself or others through these ingrained patterns, that was uncomfortable for me. So dealing with that using healthier practices, I went to nature. Like that was my go-to. When I was in the city, I would just head up on this hike. When I was out in the desert, I just go and stick my feet on the earth, or go look for feathers, just something to be in the earth. But starting to do these practices that would move the energy until I could feel calm enough to sit and be, or maybe do a life administration task, like start to do reality stuff again. So the 4D is no man's land. And in fact, it's the void and the place of woman. It's in indigenous culture, at least in some parts of the world, that is the place governed by woman. And crow medicine is seeing past, present, and future all at once. And crow is very helpful in the void, because when you're seeing all of these potentialities, or you're being bombarded, like I accepted that psychic abilities or just an overactive mind that leaves me vulnerable to impressions. And I just started to understand that my mind was listening. It wasn't creating these things, it was listening. And so in that space, Crow helped me by teaching me to just say stop to all of that. Stop. And I even got this crow feather so that I could clear those energies when it became too much. I also learned that in the void is where we come into contact with sacred law, divine law, and woman governs divine law. And in indigenous North American cultures, this sacred law is in a sacred text called the Ogala, the records. And sacred law is not man's law. Like, we're not in alignment with sacred law currently in our society. So going into the void is a great opportunity to inquire about, well, then what are the laws of the universe? What are my values? And you can create who you are in this new reality in the 4D. It's a great opportunity to, even though you are feeling some of these old emotions and seeing these old patterns, to actually inquire what means something to you, what does feel good. So it's an interesting space, but it's a space where you can learn a lot, especially if you call upon Crow to assist you. And people who are women who are watching, knowing that you have a womb space, uterus or not, you have the womb in your field, in your human design, and that is a space that you command. Like, that is yours. And that is in our emotional self-care, calling upon the womb, because it's the biggest transmuter of energy. Like, when you have intercourse, you are assisting your partner in transmuting a lot of that energy that they are bringing into the union. You can also transmute your own emotional energy by directing it into your womb. That's why it's very important with the union that you have a partner that cultivates their own energy and becomes a self-sustaining energy system, so that when you come together, it's actually nourishing. It's not dumping on one another or numbing, checking out. It's a way of actually cultivating an energy that's more than the sum of your parts. That is the sacred sex, the tantric sex. So we're going to go into some of the sacred tantric breathing practices that we can practice solo to cultivate this energy body later on. But we've already gone way too far into this journey, and we haven't even laid out the map of higher consciousness. I will save this for next time. I wanted to do a really quick, if you have 5 minutes, if you need to go, feel free to head out. But let's just do a 5-minute meditation, Dharana style, just so we remember how it is that these meditations go. Because when you are going to restart your practice, or perhaps you're going into the medicine space, you're going to want to have a structure for bringing your body and mind into a calmer state so that you can have fun receiving what you're meant to receive in your meditation. Okay, so we are coming to the present moment. We are feeling our seat connected to what we're sitting on, which is connected to the earth. we start to notice our body. Do we get to adjust our spine to be a little bit more upright? Relaxing our shoulders, relaxing the muscles around the eyes, gently noticing the breath. And with the typical Dharana meditation practice, we start with 4 questions. And you're free to change these in your own teaching, that these are the basics. And they're meant to open you up to listening to your higher self. So the first one is, who am I? So just allow that question to be. And if you receive any answers, great. If not, no worries. Who am I? What do I want? What do I want? What's my deepest desire? And truly honor what comes up here. Your desire can be as materialistic as you want. It's just honoring the desire that is present. What do I truly desire? Then what do I appreciate? What do I love? Or who do I love? And what does my heart want to tell me? Or what does my heart get to hear from me? And now we're ready to introduce our dharana, our focus, because a point of focus harmonizes the brain waves and it leads us into dhyana, or the meditation, which then leads us into a state of samadhi, or nirvana, bliss. So our dharana is a mantra today. And that mantra is soham. It's I am. And when we repeat it in our mind gently, it focuses our attention on soham, like we're listening to it. You don't have to be really strenuous about it, but it becomes I am that I am that I am. So gently introduce repeating soham in your mind like you're listening to it on a radio station. I will mind the time. We will be here for 2 minutes and then I'll bring us out. Soham, 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 soham. And if your mind wanders, just bring it right back to soham. We're training our focus. Soham. Gently release the mantra. And at the end of our meditation, since we're in this nice alpha state, alpha brainwave state, we like to plant the seeds for what's to come after our meditation. So I like to say, joyful, healthy body, generous, compassionate, loved heart, relaxed, focused mind, lightness of being. And I gently bring movement back into my body. I might do some heart and stomach, my heart and willpower, or my heart and mind power and willpower. When heart, mind, and will are aligned, we are in our full power. Thank you so much for your commitment to this, because when we are self-sustained energy systems, when we've activated our heart, when we've welcomed the feminine back in and balanced our masculine, self-advocating, making time for what nourishes us, our world naturally improves. So thank you, and I honor you, and your energy has made this experience exactly what it is. So thank you. I invite you to start your meditation tracker. If you don't have one, then you can email me, and aim for 10 minutes in the morning. I set my alarm early, and once that alarm goes off, I start playing this hypnosis that I have, and it plays for like 30 minutes and I fall asleep again. But then I naturally wake up, and the first thing I do is meditate. So I kind of have doubled down on that morning time, and it's been the easiest way to wake up. And after that 10-minute meditation, right now I'm up to 13 minutes, because 13 is the number of the feminine. We've been on like the 12 calendar days and 12 hours and all that. The 13 is like the 13 moon cycles of the year that the indigenous followed. So I'm doing like 13 everything right now to code my reality to embrace the feminine. So I'm doing 13 minutes, and it's been amazing. So I encourage you to do that. And you can choose, if you don't have your personal mantra, then you can choose like a Soham or Om, or you can look up a mantra that feels good to you. If you do have your personal mantra, use that. That's beautiful. If you would like your personal mantra, it's included in the meditation certification. So reach out to me via email to schedule that. We'll get you your personal mantra, because that is the sound of the universe at the time of your birth. So when you meditate with that, you easily bring in the vibes of your expansive being. Thank you so much. If you are just here to watch the recording, I'm going to end it now. And if you're still here, I'm going to take some questions. Thanks, guys. Take really good care of yourself. You deserve it.